All right, G, we have started, and this is our first session in English. Let's see how this goes. And Adnan, I think you should elaborate what are the issues we are going to discuss in our today's talk.
Yeah, okay. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to this session between us. I'm Adnan Ijaz and my partner here is Gibran Masood. So the idea of this kind of a session is to start off with something in English because we have another channel that we utilize solely for our Urdu videos
Yeah,
because we are from Pakistan and Urdu is our national language. But the thoughts that we want to share with the world are, we think that there should be in a medium that is more in lingua franca, in a language that many people can understand, because a lot of stuff is happening with Muslims, with Pakistanis in the world, and the topics we usually that come up during our discussions are, I mean, I assume they are of interest to many people around the world, not just Pakistanis or Muslims. And we have a kind of a dynamic going on in the world that, you know, uh, straddles religions, uh, Muslims, Christians, Jews, atheists, so many other religions in the world, and so many other political and economic thoughts going on in the world that we think that we should start saying something, throwing it out into the ether, and let's see what comes back. But in this particular session, I think, Gibran, we should hold it at least once a week and we can have one in our other channel in Urdu, a similar kind of a setup where we discuss random topics, not completely random, but stuff that has happened in the past week or so that we can base provide a base for our discussions, because smaller topics lead to actually bigger thoughts and bigger things that need to that we usually discuss in our own circle, and we have very beneficial discussions on it. But since we started this channel, the entire purpose was to share those discussions with the world. I know we have an accent. This is a typical Asian Pakistani sort of a mixed accent, and people are going to have some difficulty in comprehending us in the beginning.
yeah,
What we can do is we can try to generate subtitles after the fact, after we have our session, and
yeah,
paste it along the video so that it can help people in the beginning. And over time, I suppose our accents are also going to improve because
yeah,
it is not an everyday life that we speak at length for an hour or 2 hours in
yeah,
English. I mean, we
yeah,
do give a presentations, the 10-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute presentations in our
yeah,
professional and maybe religious lives. But this has never happened that we have had to speak casually in a setting that spans an hour or over that. So Gibran, I haven't thought of a name for this session, but I will.
okay,
And I want either I'll do it myself or I'll request you to do that, that we can, get an email address based on that name. And then
okay,
we can share it with our audience once I edit this video so that
okay,
for the next time on, if any people, any of our one from our audience wants to ask us a particular question
yeah,
about any particular incident, an issue within politics, religion, profession, anything,
yeah,
people can see what our areas of interest are through our sessions.
mm,
So we can entertain those questions in coming sessions. People can also, of course, comment on this video to share some concerns that we might address in the next video. That option
yeah,
is always available. But
yeah,
yeah, I would like we should decide a name for these sessions that we have each week, and we should
okay,
design an email address that we'll share with the people. So, before I hand it over to you again, because I think I've been rambling on for quite a few minutes now, but I mean, this is a free for all. You can jump in anytime you feel like, Gibran. But
yeah,
I think we haven't really picked or chosen very interesting topics that could come up. We would be choosing such topics in our sessions ahead. But
yeah,
for today, I have narrowed it down to five main topics that I
okay,
think might interest the people because these are the topics that have happened recently also,
Yeah.
and maybe because these topics are just something that came to mind when I decided to start this session.
Mm.
Before I reveal those topics that we'll be talking on, Ribban, do you have any other thoughts that you want to share?
Yeah, I think for our audience, it's important to, we have already given a disclaimer regarding the accent and the nature and the construction of this, series. I think we'll be doing, free for all kind of a thing, yes, but the point is we will bring some structure to things instead of, seeing our faces all the time. We'll have certain slides for them for specific topics which require that kind of interaction. And I think we'll improve with the time, and I hope the audience will help us do better, and be more productive and valuable for them as we progress.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to highlight this fact that we don't currently have a big audience right now because we're just starting off.
Yeah,
And we are not kind of famous people that people will just flock to our sessions.
yeah,
So we are terribly aware of that. I mean, once we are calling out the names of our audience again and again, we're terribly aware of the fact that we don't currently have a large audience. But
yeah.
of course, these things take time, and if we'll be worth our salt, people will ultimately start listening us. But that is not our prime purpose. Our purpose is to, as I said earlier, to throw our thoughts into the ether, because I think we have something to contribute in the discussions that are being had in the entire social media around us.
Yeah.
So we have something to say as well, and we want to share it with the world.
And I think, it's important that, once a lot of our intended audience, which is, people in the Western world, they get a lot of their information, or, the side of the story from people who are, I would say, I'm not going to, be disrespectful to them, but their comment is more like which somehow toes the line, or or it's like totally radical, right? There's no middle ground there. That what a common person in the Islamic world, how he perceives things, and if he has a certain understanding of the global, political landscape, how he actually reacts to it. So I hope we will be able to bridge some of that gap, not all of it, obviously, because we don't represent everybody, but it would still help, get that message across. And obviously our we are, we try to be practicing, when it comes to our religion. It has a certain impact on us, and it will be visible once, once we take a stand. However, we would like to be very pragmatic when it comes to situations, and I think once a lot of the very contentious issues that we plan to unfold, once they'll come to the fore, it will be, more evident then, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I want to keep it casual because, we have separate segments and separate types of videos that we usually make and post on our channels that,
Yeah,
take a deep dive into a particular subject or a particular topic. We
yeah,
would continue to do that. But,
yeah,
this space I wanted to create for our casual conversations. We'll not be, extremely serious about these things.
yeah.
We want to throw ideas around. We want them to bounce around, see
Mhm.
what comes back. People will inform us about certain things that we might improve in the future. So, I mean, yeah, casuality is the word of the day here. This is how we want to proceed with this particular session of ours.
Okay.
So, if I could start, unveiling the topics. So, I think five topics that recently, some of those have recently happened, and some of those I just wanted to, I picked them because they were a part of the news cycle that is going on currently. The first of
Okay.
these five topics is, of course, the biggest one of all, the US elections 2024.
Okay.
We just, this week it was decided that Donald Trump, the Republican president, the Republican candidate, is going to be the 47th president of the United States of America.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, uh, I know this seems a bit awkward that I'm sitting in Pakistan and we are talking about a president that is of a different country. And I know some people would, most people would understand why we are making this a topic for discussion. But still, I want to highlight the fact that why we are more interested in discussing this topic, apart from the most basic and regular stuff that might come to people's minds.
Yeah,
Why we would be discussing it? Because of course it is a superpower,
yeah,
and whoever comes into power in that country has a lot of power and dominion and things to do in the world that affect all kinds of people and countries across the globe.
yeah,
Pakistan is particularly tied to United States in so many ways that we can unpack in some future time. But people already know we have a sort of an ideological commitment with the way United States looks at the world also. We
yeah,
have been their allies since our inception as a country. Then Muslims, especially Arab countries, have a very close relationship with America. Pakistan, in particular, while not in America, not an Arab country, but being in South Asia, we probably are the one of the main allies of America that America has relied upon in various wars, also in various other global issues and uh, mm, the strategic way America and other European powers want to drive this world. So this is this regular stuff. But another stuff that we recently unpacked, Gibran, in our other series in Urdu, that of course I'm making a video on that in English also, which will be posted shortly, is the concept of the second coming of Messiah, the popular trope that pervades both Islam, but not both, even all three Abrahamic religions, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. And we have had a very specific opinion about what it meant. I mean, there are predictions and prophecies about it in all
mm,
three religions. But in Islam, since we are Muslims and we have gone through those prophecies as a matter of our religious
yeah,
education, um,
yeah,
so we give much importance to that, and we since gave a very particular interpretation of those prophecies that involves America. So
yeah,
I want to bring this topic into discussion because it is extremely important for us as Muslims
yeah,
to view things the way eschatological views held by all three major Abrahamic religions are unfolding on the world stage right now. I mean, we
yeah,
see the war going on in Palestine and between Palestine and Israel. And while there are, of course, on-ground factual geographical reasons for that war, but
mm,
still the animus behind those in behind that war in many particular aspects becomes religious. Whether you come
mm,
from the side of our Jewish brothers, whether you come from the Muslim brothers side or our Christian brothers side, they have certain sections within their decision
cold,
makers
yeah,
and thinkers that approach the subject not merely from a secular perspective, but religion plays a major role in it.
yeah,
So let's get down to it. Okay, so Donald Trump won despite the polls, going neck to neck and probably faring a little bit leaning towards Kamala Harris, the Democratic candidate. But as it turned out, not only did Trump win the election, he won the popular vote for the first
true.
time, I think, in 2 decades or so.
Mm,
So this was not expected. I mean, he exceeded expectations in every particular manner of saying.
mm.
So before I give my perspective, I mean, if you want to contribute anything, how do you see it? Why did it happen? Or stuff you want to share? Please go ahead.
Okay, my take would be pretty much based on the, the local, impact and, considerations. Basically, we are going through a turmoil in Pakistan, political instability and all. And people, we always hitch hopes with the, American new administration to, put us right, without actually, pulling up our own socks. So the fact that Donald Trump managed to win, we saw something similar in Pakistan. I mean, the leading party here was, um was a party that was kind of totally marginalized. Donald Trump was had so many indictments coming in. He had to, face so much of the things. And once we say we respect the, voice of the people, I think it was pretty much on that Donald Trump, whatever he is, he's an outlier. He's not something that the established, entrenched, uh, forces want to have. He's somebody they can don't want to have, but he still managed to not only win over those states, he managed to keep his base intact. And all these pollsters and the predictions were, it looked like they're pretty much fabricated to somehow stop this onslaught. I mean, this is how it looked. And um, we always the people, the kind of people we are, we always have an absolutist mentality that if somebody wins, then he should have won squarely. He should be the best person, best moral, embodiment of moral, authority and everything. That's a lie, actually. That doesn't happen. This world is not meant for these kind of ascribing these kind of characteristics to politicians, right? That's what we do.
Mhm.
And I think his ascendancy to the presidency would be, nobody knows what's going to happen. I mean, nobody can clearly articulate what he will do. Yes, there are some things that you can uh, d- you can kind of make out from what he has said or his policy statements, but I think it's the world is going to have have their fingers crossed that what actually would it mean for the rest of the world. Donald Trump coming in, after all he has been through, and the kind of vote base he swears for. So let's see. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, I agree with most of it. But to just argue with you on this point that we don't know how Trump is going to turn out. We actually had a 4 years of his presidency earlier also, so we
yeah,
can have a pretty good idea about how he would behave now, especially the kind of promises he's made. But I want to dedicate today's session not to talk about what all he's going to deliver on, whether he's going to stick to his promises or not, because
yeah,
he's made a lot of them and they are extremely hard to implement,
yeah,
to say the least. But I want to, share my 2 cents on the subject of why he won or why the Democratic candidate lost. Because a lot of people, a lot of pundits, a lot of analysts across the globe, of course, because America affects everybody and everyone in the world right now, they have been giving their 2 cents. They have been telling their audiences why they think he won and Kamala lost. You
mm,
know the famous adage that success has many fathers, but failure has none, or failure is an orphan, words to that
mm,
effect.
mm,
So, of course, people are coming up with all kinds of reasons that, oh, Kamala should have done that. Oh, Democrats would have should have done that. Some of it is on the money, which I'm going to share. I think is correct also from my
mm,
point of view. But some of it is just this adage coming into play here, that because she failed, so there are a number of you can come up with any cockamamie idea why she failed and just throw it out there.
mm,
Uh, I want to point out some things, despite the fact that I think they are going to be a little bit controversial, especially for the Americans, because that nation has come across a long way.
yeah,
I think it started off as being very close to the white supremacist mindset, but then
yeah,
traveled to a position now that we can, I think, agree on, that is not that hackneyed or narrow-minded as regards to their race or religion or any other kind of distinction in the world that normally nations carry around with other nations, with
yeah,
regards to other nations. They are a much better nation now as compared to they were so early on. But still, some things pervade and some things transcend and continue to be even simmering in a nation at some particular level, whether it's not, right in forefront of us, it's not right in front of our eyes, or it's not a major threat at the moment, but we
Yeah.
know it is lurking somewhere in the
Background.
society that can come to the fore anytime. And one of
Yeah.
those things that I think was the most major thing that made Kamala lose is, and fit for it, sexism. I mean, we've all heard the adage of the WASP presidency in America, that white Anglo-Saxon Protestants,
Mhm.
these are the people that normally America votes for. Now,
Yeah.
in an
Yeah.
election that everybody knew that is going to be so tight, so
Yeah.
neck to neck,
Yeah.
once you bring to elect a candidate that is, what can you say, disabled, or it suffers from a certain disability as far as their society is concerned, you are
Mm.
asking too much of that person then. I mean, this happened earlier also. Joe
Yeah.
Biden defeated Donald Trump, but yeah,
Hillary.
Hillary Clinton, lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we are not talking about that, okay, it was sexism was the major portion of all of it. They are just sexist men that want men in. No, that's not what we are saying. We're
It's because
saying
the
that the
margins were so
election,
close. Yeah.
yeah,
Margins were so
elections
close.
are decided on so thin margins
Yeah.
that these things play a role in it. And
Okay.
matter of fact is that Joe Biden dropped out of the race pretty late. I
Late.
mean,
Yeah.
it was already a very contentious affair to choose another person mid-race, so close to the
Yeah.
race.
Yeah.
In American elections, they say that it's usually said that the campaign for the election goes on for about 2 years or so. From
Yeah.
midterm elections till the next election, the campaign is on.
Yeah.
And in the last, I think she got 105 or similar some days
Yeah.
to muster up all the support that she could get, and she got a lot of support. But this
Yeah.
particular disability that a woman suffers in their society till today, that she cannot compete with men on exactly same footing, not because that's a sexist nation, but because the elections are decided on so small margin that on that
Yeah.
margin this issue still plays a role. So any other reasons that people are throwing out there, a lot of people voted for Kamala. It's not that big a margin, 5 million. I heard somewhere it's about 5 million votes or so. I
Yeah.
mean,
So far.
America
Yeah.
is a big country.
Yeah. Yeah.
These votes are not that much. So
Yeah.
if you are going to choose a candidate that suffers from this particular disability, you can
Yeah.
count on it that any other reasons are going to be shadowed by this particular reason, that she's a woman competing in a country that has never elected a president, a female president.
Yeah, and I just want to add here that this, this strain of sexism, once we say that, it has played a role, it is no in saying that rest of the world is, above board, at least our part of the world. Europe is still better. I just wanted to make it clear that, we are not taking this ground based on the fact that we are the champions somehow, or we as per people are, supporting that cause in a way. But it's a reality of
Yeah.
a certain situation.
Yeah, but still, I think this needs to be pointed out that America, in some ways, in this particular aspect, is behind the world, even our world. I
Mm.
mean, you take Pakistan, you take Bangladesh, you take India, you take any South Asian country,
Yeah.
especially the ones that are making the news all the time. There have been women leaders in those,
Yes.
there be prime ministers or presidents, or
Mm.
America has to still take that leap.
Yeah.
So I wanted to point this out, that this is a particular problem in American politics, and they are making strides to end it. But
Mm.
this was not the moment of pitching a person with such a disability against Donald Trump. And
Yeah.
that is, I want to close this point from my side at least with the last thing I want to share. In the Western society right now, there is a crisis going on, that is a crisis concerning manhood.
Yeah.
I mean, there has been so much a talk of women's rights and other things pertaining to gender equality and stuff and diversity, that there has come up a certain reaction to it in the society, not only in
Mhm.
America, across
Mhm.
the Western world, across
Yeah.
Europe also.
Yeah.
That right now, especially young men, because if you see the pattern in which voters have voted for Donald Trump,
Yeah.
young men have almost with a huge margin voted for Donald Trump. I mean, I think
yeah,
I was hearing it at some place that it was not even close. It was like 18, 20% or in this range for Kamala and 50 or 60% for Donald Trump. So
yeah,
in a society in which another grievance culture of manhood has emerged over the years. I mean, you can
yeah,
find out, Gibran, we watch these shows so interestingly. Figures like Jordan Peterson, Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, The
yeah,
Rubin Report, and so many other programs that we watch. They're based on this. They're addressing this grievance in the society.
yeah, yeah,
That okay, we've already sacrificed so much for women's rights, but right now you're pushing men into the corner. Okay, so
yeah,
we need to fight back right now. So this macho man, bro man culture, and take Andrew Tate for example. I mean,
mm,
these have become the idols of men in Western societies right now, whether we
yeah,
like it or not. And we
mm,
can't say it is totally based without a foundation. It's irrational. I mean, there are rational reasons for it.
mm,
So this is why I think sexism or the what can you say, the cultural norms of that society right now, with which they view or they elect their presidents or want to see their presidents in a particular view. The various threads coloring that selection, sexism
mm.
has a major role in that.
I think if we just to elaborate a bit on this, this has been the case everywhere. I mean, it's not only the presidency. We know that women have been given a large role in the workforce. They're leading corporations, everything. But we know this train exists and it's still there. And coupled by the fact that the doubling down on the woman liberation, the way it has been done, it has put some people off as well. It's you cannot shove something down the throats just because it's right. Because you have to give, and the society is probably less ready than before, right? Europe has come forward a bit, but there this train, I think there's a, I think the economical strain also plays a big role in this, right? That once the economic situations are, are right, such kind of activities actually flourish and are given more room. But once the economic anxiety sets in, everybody wants to go back to the basics, right? And this is part of being going back to the basics. This rise of, a pushback against, this.
Yeah, well,
So
people should expect that. That's a natural reaction sort of a thing.
yeah,
So, so this is what I had to, say about the first reason that I think that she lost is
okay,
within those margins, sexism was a disability,
yeah,
or her gender was a disability that you should not have pitched your candidate with into this race. It was
mm,
already very close.
yeah,
The second thing, because I think I have four things in lined up. First, we have discussed three more things.
yeah,
And I'm discussing these things because these things are not being discussed in this particular manner because the liberals and Democrats, they cannot come out and say it out loud that their opponents, voters are sexists. So
yeah, yeah,
these things, we have to be the, mouthpiece of those people because we don't have anything much to lose here. We are not
yeah,
in America, not Americans, and we can say this stuff out loud. So that's why I wanted to say it out loud. So this was the first reason. Second reason, I mean, the first reason people can realize that it was nothing of Kamala's fault. It was
yeah,
nothing that she could have done, that she could have, overcome this particular disability.
yeah,
So
yeah,
this
yeah.
was the first thing.
Okay,
The second thing, and that's more important to me even than the first thing, but as we will discuss further, it plays as a lesser role in their society than the first reason, and that is, it was just a chemical reaction, or it was a reaction that was in the cards if you consider the long arc of the universe, the long
mm,
arc of things that be. I mean, we know that how Biden got a very difficult time to rule in. That
yeah,
that time brought inflation to an all-time high. It raised oil prices. It
mm,
started. They had to deal with multiple wars during their time. The thing that is often quoted over there right now is that the prices of eggs has gone through the roof.
Yeah.
Every day the problems folks face in the society. So it is just a chemical reaction. People normally, okay, it is a norm in American politics in general that a president gets two terms, normally
Yeah.
speaking, but there are plenty of examples where people only got the one term. And I think this is only the second example in their entire history
Yeah.
that a president has been elected after a gap of 4 years. I mean, he
Yeah.
has been elected, but not two contiguous terms, but two separate terms.
Yeah.
I mean, I want people to realize that once you have such sort of an era of 4 years where so
Mm.
many problems were faced by the administration, by
Mm.
the elected candidates, the president, you shouldn't expect that people are not going to swing the other way now. I mean,
Mm.
it's the kind of a logic of yeah, I don't know the English version of that axiom that is coming to my mind, but once you are into the fire, you
Yeah.
have to you jump into the frying pan, or once you're in the frying pan, you have to jump into the fire. I mean, this is
Yeah.
something that is embedded into the human psyche. It's not
Yeah.
that you think that things are going to get much better afterwards, but you are
Yeah.
getting
And
roasted. You have to try
you,
something different.
yeah, I think this is valid, and we have the incumbency factor which adds a certain weight, right? And then the 4 years of decision making turmoil they've been through, there have been setbacks, and I think a point to relate is Joe Biden as a president. He has always appeared, or maybe the right wing media or whatever has been more laser focused on his appearance and everything. But it does turn out that, don't you think once you go through a process of turmoil, you need a strong looking character to or a more that kind of a thing that also plays on people's minds too, right? That
Yeah, the strong man, the populist leader hypothesis, it has worked
yeah,
so many times in the history, and
yeah,
especially after periods of turmoil. We can see world
yeah,
wars for this examples. But this is what I wanted to say, that sometimes you are defeated not by the things that are happening right in front of your eyes, but
yeah,
because a longer arc of things happening over so much of time. So much
yeah,
of history is behind those particular reactions that you cannot overpower those reactions.
yeah,
And I think this was just one of those reactions that people had to go through. I mean, people know that we are jumping into the fire, out of the frying pan, but they still do that. I
yeah,
mean, why would it be an axiom if people don't do that? So, but that's the reason. I mean, that Kamala was fighting against the odds.
yeah.
They had really the folks had really tough time, and that is why this is the second reason I think it
And
happened.
and this also shows that having a bigger war chest does help you as well. I mean, Democrats had a much bigger fund gathered over time. I mean, almost three times than the Republicans, but that didn't help. I mean, no amount of spend on the media and opinion making, that didn't help because the ground reality had shifted. I mean, that was, I guess, the reason, and it was a tough fight that way.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's very interesting because I was always under the impression that Republicans are better funded across the board. They have so many
Yes, that
billionaires.
also, I think it was like a billion and a 330 million. That was the case. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, and they also gave a breakdown of, and I think Trump made fun of that. You spend all the money on this media and the media he's against and everything. But anyways, yeah,
Yeah, so these two reasons I wanted to just throw out there to highlight the fact that these two main reasons had nothing to do with what Kamala could have done.
yeah,
I mean, these are just things that happen as a chemical reaction in your surroundings, and they were
yeah,
bound to happen one way or another. So
yeah,
don't, be too hard on yourself for people who have lost, because these are just things that are bigger than us, they're
yeah.
bigger than our tactics and strategies, etc.
Mm,
So
mm,
after these two reasons, I think now we can come to the two reasons that I think had to do that could have been controlled, had to be blamed on the candidate and their party as well, the entire left as well. So
mm,
these two reasons, let's discuss the first one, is the choice of the person. I mean, I know I might be crossing some taboos here, but I mean, it was well known, or at least not. We might not be able to call it well known, but it's a popular perception in their society that she was a diversity hire. I mean, especially as I mentioned earlier, the entire crisis of manhood going on there, there is a very firm reaction against the diversity stuff. The entire DEI blew up in the past 2, 3 years. We saw it with our own eyes in the American
Yeah.
society. I mean, how could those people living in their own society be blind to it when it is visible from this far a place?
Yeah.
We could see it that there are all kinds of reactions on the right and the center also that were against DEI and so many other things that promote other disenfranchised sections of the society
Yeah.
over white Americans or normal
Yeah.
Americans who think that they are losing their jobs, they are losing their livelihoods to people just because they are getting handouts from up above.
Yeah.
So this was a very strong feeling in the society. So getting a diversity hire, not only, I mean, as Trump said, I don't agree with most of it, what he said, and it was just a very pathetic jibe from his side. He
Mhm.
said, okay, she was Indian earlier, and now she's black, and I didn't know when she turned and stuff like that. I mean, I
Mhm.
don't buy into that hype, but yes, she was manifesting, personifying so many diverse things. She was a
Yeah.
woman, she was a woman of color, she was an
And
Indian.
we,
Uh,
yeah.
uh, so many things combined in that person that any person who is even on the fence about the diversity issues, this thing
Mhm.
could not escape that person's mind, even so, that
Mhm.
this person was reflecting so many diversity issues that had become a taboo or about to become a taboo in the society because so much of the population was getting a very firm reaction against it. So
Yeah.
the first thing in this third point, the choice of the person that I want to highlight is the diversity stuff.
Okay.
Before I go to the next one, do you have to add anything, Gibran?
I think it also, it kind of resonates with the first point as well, that there are certain things which are, uh, they are not accepted wholeheartedly by the society as the governments like to portray in their reports and their conferences, and they are they are those kind of steps that take a much longer time to adopt and make the society homogeneous to a point that this is accepted. I mean, once people reacted to this diversity thing, I think nobody was on the ground was unsure that this is a reality. It exists. People do not want this kind of inclusion to happen at this stage, and that too for a person who is about to be elected president. So that also played into a role into that. Yes.
Yeah. I don't want to take anything away from Kamala. I mean, she was a brilliant candidate. Had she
Yeah.
had the time to, actually go into the campaign with the kind of time that other candidates usually have,
Yeah.
she had a great past. She was a learned enough candidate for the job. But
Yeah.
I'm saying that what she represented was at all time low in the society in terms of their choice for a president could have embodied.
And by the way, this crisis of leadership that both actually Democrats and Republicans have been going through since Obama came in and had did his 2 terms, I think essentially it killed the any leadership on either sides. There's nobody. I mean, Joe Biden cannot be a first pick. If you look at the history, he can never be a first pick for anybody, right? And same goes for Donald Trump. How could he be, a guy from who's a who's not politically, active guy? He just storms in and makes a mark. This crisis of leadership is also, I think, part of the longer arc of history that's happening right now in America, which is probably resulting in all these things that are unfolding in front of us. Who could have thought? I mean,
Yeah, I'd say it's even bigger than America. It's happening all across Europe also. I
yeah,
mean, right wing, far right candidates are getting elected and a lot of support, finding a lot of support. And this is the first time after the Second World War that we are seeing this kind of support going to the
yeah,
far right camp.
yeah,
Yeah, true that. So we are still in that point that the choice of the person. The first thing
yes,
in the choice of the person that I wanted to highlight was the diversity hire issue. It was
yeah,
a major trope and a major meme in the society, and it played some role in making her disfavorable in the eyes of the general masses. The
Yeah.
second is she was Biden's VP, and
Mm.
she failed to distance herself from his policies. I mean, the people are worried about inflation. The people are worried about being participating into the wars, or at
Mm.
least participating in a manner that was a bit strident for their society. Uh, and the costliness of life over there right now. Even though their economy is booming under Biden, but the
Yeah.
right wing has painted such a picture over there of a bad economy that the common folk on the street thinks it's a bad economy because of something Biden did. I mean, there are powers, of course, you cannot control. You cannot control the price of oil. You cannot control the price of other things once a war is going on in Ukraine. And so many of supply chain issues in the entire world have happened in the past few years.
Yeah.
But she was given an opportunity in a particular show
Mm.
that made rounds reverberated across the social media. Was
Yeah.
she was asked this particular question: okay, if you were the president, what would you have made done differently than Biden? Would you
Yeah.
like to say something that how you would have been different than Biden? And she said, not a thing. So this was something that really irked the masses. That okay, I
Yeah.
mean, you're a person, you're completely blind to our suffering. You are
Yeah.
blind to the fact that our common folks are facing so many problems, and you can't say two words of conciliation, of consolation, that okay, if I had been the president, I would have taken so and so steps in this thing. And
Yeah.
that was, I think, a blunder on her part that she could have corrected afterwards, even. I mean, of
Yeah.
course, you sometimes may make faux pas while you're asked a direct question in a particular show. But
Mm.
she was a pretty, ready-wit kind of a person. I don't suppose that that was the issue. The issue was that in her mind also, and in her
Mm.
strategy also, she
Mm.
thought that Biden's strategy is working, it is popular in the people, and I'm going to be, just another Biden incarnate, and that's how I'm going to win. So this is
I
the
mean,
reason a
I
choice
have
of
a
person was
yeah.
wrong, and
Mm.
she made it wrong because of not differentiating herself enough, sufficiently enough from
Mm.
Biden in the eyes of the masses.
I have a question to ask. Uh, why does he have to stand by Biden just because things were Biden gave up in the race pretty late. It's already a late start for everything. Why doesn't the Democratic Party let one why can't they let Biden take one for the team in a very articulated way, not as if he's guilty for everything, and get Kamala some what do you call it, advantage over there. So I don't think that this is it Biden has some kind of a hold within the party. He has been an old, he's been old guard for them for such a long time or whatever. But I think that this is strange for me at least.
This is very interesting to me as well, but I want to explain it. I know why it happened, why she behaved the way she behaved. I don't want to
Hmm.
excuse it. I want to explain it, okay?
Okay.
So the explanation goes something like this, that people who are, overachievers, because she did not come into the VP-ship through some merit or something like that. As I
Hmm.
mentioned in the first point, that people already think that she was a diversity hire. So when you pick something, lift someone up from the, depths of anonymity or obscurity and bring them into the light and make them famous, you kind
Ah.
of feel yourself beholden to that person. So I think
Hmm.
that is what was going on into her mind. That was
Okay.
one thing, and the other thing I think is the general issue that you just mentioned earlier also,
Hmm.
that the Democratic Party is seems to have lost its touch with the masses. They don't know how the masses feel about certain issues, and she probably thought that Biden's policies were a big hit, and because in the echo chamber that these Democrats find themselves in, I mean everybody finds themselves in echo chambers these days. We only follow people we like who are, stroking our egos, confirming our own basic
Okay.
instincts and stuff. So
Yeah.
I think, and the second issue in that is that apart from the fact that mentioned earlier, she also thought that Biden's policies were working and they were good. So I don't do
Hmm.
not need to distance myself from them, which was a
Okay.
mistake.
Okay.
This was the second point. The third point, and this is where I want to be, I mean, yeah, you might say I am being very audacious, and maybe some people would find it a bit unfair as well to her. But I think she was a very unoriginal candidate. I mean, she had a whole vibe of her persona that the simplest statement she uttered, a person like myself or any even disinterested party sitting miles, hundreds of miles away in the world, did not want to believe what she was saying. I mean, she has that pretension in her personality that
Mm,
manifests in very few people. I mean, normally what Biden said, what even you go to Clinton, although Clinton was really on the borderline there, but Obama. I mean, when those people spoke, you wanted to believe what they were speaking, what they were
mm,
saying. You felt conviction behind their statements, behind their slogans. I think Kamala was, I mean, her smile, her laugh, her uh, treating everything in a very jolly good manner, and actually just spitting out word salads, not making sense at all, because we
mm,
saw these in the various interviews that
yeah.
I mean, you can imagine if Trump and JD Vance are going on Joe Rogan's podcast, you
Mm,
better go on Joe Rogan's podcast now. Not
mm,
because he's your person of choice, you agree
yeah,
with that person or whatever
yeah,
he stands for, but
yeah,
because Joe Rogan is the most famous podcaster in the world right now, and
yeah.
his endorsement means something. And
Yeah.
for I mean, good or worse, he provides a very level playing field to all kinds of candidates. Every kind of
Mm,
liberal and conservative has been on his show.
yeah.
So that was taken as a sort of a cowardice by the audience that, okay, why isn't she going on the Joe Rogan's podcast? And there were
Mm,
news circulating for a few days. So, and she actually avoided other major famous podcasters also. I
mm,
mean, she could have made a decision for going on the Lex Friedman's podcast.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
also, although in the same manosphere kind of a echo chamber, but still, these are the people that the masses see as their opinion makers. So
Yeah.
the Trump sat down there, he just uttered false stuff the entire time, but he managed to go through a 3 hour interview. And Kamala did not take that step, and people realized that okay, the kind of answers and the word salads she spits, they would not have worked on Joe Rogan. So
Mm,
the dearth of her policies, although she was the most prepared in terms of policy when compared
mm.
with Trump, he who
Yeah,
knows
yeah.
absolutely nothing about any policy, but still the requirement for a Democratic candidate is so high because they are playing on, morality and ethics and strategy. So people
Yeah,
want to hear that strategy.
yeah.
But on 60 Minutes and stuff like that, she was given softball questions, which she answered. And even the slightest of hardest questions, she
Yeah.
bungled them up big time. So this
Mm,
was another reason, the choice of the person, this mattered. That she was not a person who could inspire people with her honesty, with her, I mean, you look at her past, she was a, public prosecutor, and there was a major allegations thrown from the right on her of putting so many black people behind bars on weed
yeah.
charges and stuff like that, which were mostly untrue. But I mean, yeah, I'm just painting a picture why this kind of a person,
Mm.
uh, she could have done something differently to actually garner more votes than she got this time. And this
You
is
know,
the third reason for that.
okay, this also, this looks like the baggage she carries of her lineage, her diversity, obviously, her pick as VP, and all that. So why would we imagine that such a person would be able to manifest the true self and not being comfortable being choreographed and managed? This
Yeah.
also, I'm not going to take anything away. She must be been a brilliant woman professionally and everything, but the position she's been put in, it's very difficult to fill those shoes. And we know that generally a VP position is meant to just nod and work with the president, nothing else. And she might have been perfect for the role. So beyond that, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there was a skill issue in that. Nah? That's what I'm trying to get at. That
Hmm.
the skill of her actually answering questions was very
Yes.
low on her merit list.
Yeah.
Uh, they could have picked a candidate who might like Gavin Newsom. I mean, he's so inspiring in this particular aspect of things that
Yeah.
he's right on the money. He explains policy perfectly. And there are so many other options that they were discussed quite massively on various platforms. But
Yeah.
this is what they went with, and this is why we are saying that it did not work. And the
Yeah.
last point in this particular choice of person, I mean, we're still discussing the third main reason, and the
Yeah.
sub reason, the fourth sub reason is, I mean, I don't want to call him that, but that's the name that was given to him in the media, Tampon Tim. I mean, Tim Walz, his choice for a VP
Mm.
wasn't going to impress the manosphere at all. I mean,
Mm.
Tim Walz, uh, uh, you know, uh, manifests a persona that is so irksome, that is so abhorrent to the men in their society. I mean,
Mm.
I'm talking about not the general men, that the men from that manosphere that want to see really manly men doing
Yeah.
hardcore jobs, not the
Mm.
kind of men that are, that they painted a picture in their different meetings as well, in
Yeah.
which they said the poster child for a leftist man is that he's
Yeah.
driving an electric scooter, carrying
Mm.
groceries and other stuff, doing shopping for his home chores, and
Yeah.
taking care of babies. And while his wife is the breadwinner in the household. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, Tim Walz, checked many of those boxes in the eyes of those persons.
Mm.
I mean, the whole saga about his tampon escapade that he placed in washrooms
Mm.
across all the schools and I think colleges, etc. That
Yeah.
was a very sordid kind of an allegation that I can understand why it could work in their society. So it
Mm.
worked. So you're choosing a male figure as your VP, and you're already a female. You go extremely to the extreme
Right.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you choose a man who is all man, who can bring in that manosphere votes, who
Yep.
knows, okay, this is a guy. I mean, like people said that Biden is not running the government; it's VP Kamala who's running the government all along
Mhm. Mhm.
because Biden is incapable, mentally speaking, and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
so VP has a major role now in their presidency. So you bring in that guy, and such a guy might have performed or made you perform better just because he brought those manosphere vibes with him.
Yeah, and I think this combination must have put off so many fence sitters who could have actually, gone for the thing, right?
Yeah,
Uh, that again goes, I mean, you're trying to portray something, you're trying to again shove it down the public that no, we want this kind of an arrangement.
yeah,
This is what we want you to be as well. And it really hits with some of the demographics who are actually might not be, Republican, but they might want to see something different, right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
Too much of the same. No? The same attitude was reflected by both candidates, yeah,
yeah,
personified by both candidates.
yeah,
That was not on.
yeah,
So this completes the third aspect of this particular issue. And the fourth and the final one, the first, let me remind, the first one was sexism. The second one was just a reaction, just a chemical reaction that was bound to happen. And the third one was choice of person. What went wrong with the choice of the person. And the fourth
yeah,
and the final one is issues with the left at large. I mean, we've all been seeing this in the past so many years. We went through Black Lives Matter and so many other stuff where Kamala is on record and saying that the government would pay for gender transformation surgeries for
yeah.
illegal immigrants even. She went even to that extent. So
Mm.
the woke tendencies, that's an issue right now, whether we want to accept it or not, whether the Democratic candidates want to accept it or not. It is an issue right now in not only in American society, but also across Europe as well.
Yeah.
So the left had these tendencies, and they have actually turned a corner on these tendencies.
Mm.
They went into a plunge which they have recovered from for most part. but they did not have a sister soldier moment for it. The sister
Yeah.
soldier movement is a term that is devised in their politics because during the Clinton presidency, one of the rappers, black rappers, a woman, she said something awful. I don't want to get into that right now. And Clinton had to distance himself from her after that,
Mm. Mm.
explicitly, expressly, in his
Yeah.
actual words. So
Yeah.
people were asking Kamala to say that, even her supporters, that you should come out and tell us that, okay, we went awry for a moment there. We
Yeah.
went too far left by in this transgenderism and these abortion issues and stuff like that. Much of it, they should still stand by their
Yeah.
ethical stances. But I think she did not have a such a soldier moment. The left did not have it. They did not come out confessing that, okay, we went wrong there, but we have made
Yeah.
that turn and we are
Yeah.
coming back to the center. And which
Mm.
she actually did. She
Yeah.
just didn't say that she's going to do that. So I think
Yeah.
that was the one of the issues. The second
Mhm.
issue in this is that democracy and abortion were their slogans. Okay,
Yes.
the slogans they pushed out were that, okay, if you elected Trump, it is going to be the end of democracy because of
Yeah.
certain statements he had made. Although he
Mm.
explained those statements, and I don't perceive those statements in the sense that the left perceives them, but there was a very real danger, and there still is, that
Mm.
Trump is going to entrench him so thoroughly through legislation during his tenure that maybe it would be the end of democracy as we know it. I think
Yeah.
it's it's quite improbable, but still it
Yeah.
could happen with the statements that he had given.
Yeah.
So they thought that this is going to be on the top of the list of the masses, that, okay, we are fighting for the survival of democracy in this country. And
Mm.
the abortion rights are going to be at the forefront of the masses. But what
Yeah.
turned out, and what people were saying from quite, past few months also, that the issues of the people right now are not democracy and not
Exactly.
abortion, but
Yes.
wages and immigration.
Exactly.
These are the main issues for people right now. Their livelihoods are at stake. The inflation has gone berserk,
Yeah.
and the immigration is, banging down their doors right now. They are very worried about it. They're worried
Yeah.
about the change in demographics that is taking place in especially left-leaning states, but also in
Mhm.
swing states. And this was something that even Elon Musk championed. I mean,
Mhm.
he is one of the most major, what can I say, supporters that brought Trump into power,
Yeah.
because he has a certain fan following also, and he kept harping on these issues, hammering these issue down of immigration. That, okay, this is
Mhm.
something that has to stop, and the southern border was a major mess in in their era. So this is
Mhm.
an issue of the left that they
Mhm.
don't seem to come to terms with. That nobody is saying that stop immigration altogether. You have to have
Mhm.
sensible legislation, sensible controls for that,
Yeah.
and that is why Trump has promised so much of that nonsense stuff of deporting millions of immigrants that have been in this country for so long.
Yeah.
So they misjudged, the left misjudged the issues of the day. They
Mm.
thought democracy and abortion are the main issues, but actually wages and immigration were the main issues. And finally, they kind of bisected the perfect uh, middle in harming their own selves, the left, by going into the Ukraine and Israel-Palestine war in the way they went in. I mean, they made the right angry with the Ukraine war and the left angry with the Gaza war. I mean, it was just so eternally stupid that you go into the Ukraine war, and then normally the right is supportive of you when you go into such kind of wars, but you somehow manage to go to such strident extents that you purposefully, destroyed the chances of making a deal between Ukraine and Russia, which everybody knows in the who is connected with the news cycle, that very early on there was going to be an agreement between both sides, but the West specifically bungled that whole operation intentionally, and that's why the right, went against you, despite you doing something that they normally love, going into wars and making money out of it. And you made the left angry with the Gaza war. Again, to the extent that you went, you trampled over all the norms in the society or in the legislature that have held up so for so long. Even Reagan, a Republican, he picked up the phone and stopped the Lebanon war when Israel went in there. But asking of Netanyahu to do stuff that he continuously humiliates you on by doing it in the very same day or the day after you said them not to do, and you
Yeah.
still hunkering down, you still, taking a step back and saying they're okay. We are not going to do anything about it. We asked them to do that. They didn't do
Yeah.
that. Okay, so move ahead.
Yeah.
That was something that made the left angry because the left people are moral and ethical people. The kind of imagery that we have all been seeing over the entire social media that defies belief, frankly. The kind of images we are seeing and the world is okay with that. But the left uh, and the Muslims and so many other people felt very disenfranchised by that. So it
Yeah.
was a perfect miscalculation of angering both the right and the left with these both wars that I think ultimately fueled into this loss for her.
Yeah. Okay. I have one comment to the last point regarding, attending to those tendencies that, the leftist narrative. This was, you were absolutely spot on once you said that yes, transgender issues do matter, right? To what extent they matter and in what time, once there is an economic anxiety, and it may not be as high as the Republicans may have amplified it, but it was there. So denying that at all and then moving for those cases which affect a very small percentage of the population, unfortunately, that's the reality. Majorities stakes always matter, right?
Yeah.
And the same is the case, for the abortion rights. There's a lot of anti-abortion sentiment, right? You cannot just push it down at a time once there are other issues to address. So I don't understand. Generally, the democratic machine is pretty well oiled, articulate. They go around things, but I guess they had to bungle it up this time, and they did it at every point, every second place they get to, right? They've not
Yeah.
turned a right corner anywhere in the whole
Yeah, but
campaign.
allow me to differ from you, to disagree with you. I do not think the Democratic Party is a well-oiled machine. The Republican Party is a well-oiled machine. The Democratic Party is all over the place. They
You know, I know.
perfectly bungle up everything they get into.
No, I mean, I have, we are, I would say that I'm slightly Democrat leaning, no matter, although I have no stakes, but this is maybe that's the reason I'm saying this, because I conceive them to be more educated, more. I know practicality has nothing to do with education, right? This is
Yeah.
a totally different debate. But generally, they had 8 consecutive years at Obama's time. They had those, they had that stage to, move further, using of data and everything. I mean, how could they miss this? Aren't they using data points anymore to, determine which constituency has a certain right or a certain want? I mean, how can they, if they have done it deliberately, then we would like to know who has pushed them to do that. Anyways,
I
okay,
mean, they have been the good guys in their politics for so long, and good guys finish last. Sort of a
yeah,
stuff that happens in politics is
yeah,
what's has become a quagmire for them. But
yeah,
the Democratic Party goes awry in every which way possible all the
yeah.
time. They and lately they have also become very disconnected from the masses as well. So
Yeah. Okay. And coming for the last point, which is their positioning with respect to Ukraine, Russia war, and then Palestine, Israel conflict. Basically setting up fires both in the leftist and the right camps, right? But that I think is what was in case of Ukraine. Yes, it actually the Ukraine war had prolonged too much. I mean, everybody thought there would be some kind of a middle ground, something happening, but Russia played its card well, I guess, right? And they managed to, they're ready to, sacrifice enough to, bring it to this kind of a stalemate, right? But what happened in the other case, in their support for Israel? I mean, you can support Israel. You are a world power. I mean, you can take any sides you want, but you should not be cutting such a sorry figure that you are actually sending them everything, and then they are publicly not defying you. I mean, whether it's
Yeah.
choreographed or something, this doesn't work. I mean, this
Mhm.
is where it actually, despite I might have a very strong notion to support is Palestinians, right? But the thing is, America being the leader of the world, modern world, your your leader is getting trampled as if he means nothing, and you're still sending all sorts of aid and support and hardware, military hardware, and nothing. I mean, how can this work?
Yeah, openly flouting your orders, and
Yeah,
your spokespersons every day standing in the White House explaining to people and answering their questions. We are they regularly commit that okay, we have told them to do something like that, and the next day when the reporters ask them, okay, they did not do that. So now what? So
yeah,
I mean, just some BS answer given to the audience again and again. So Biden turned out to be a very weak president, and people thought that this is going to continue if we elect another Democratic president.
and
So
another weak candidate, basically, not only
a very weak
Democrat, a weak
candidate.
candidate. Yeah,
I mean, there is an anti-establishment drive in there also somewhere. I did not
yeah,
want to, extend my analysis to unreasonably lengthy proportions. Otherwise, there is a very distinct sentiment against the establishment. And they thought that Biden was an establishment stooge, and so is Kamala going to be. I mean,
yeah,
they won't be actually running the country. In fact, the establishment is going to be running the country. They are just their faces. They are just
mm,
going to be answering our questions and stuff. Otherwise, they don't have any policy of their own. And people saw
yeah,
that. I mean, there were so many confirmations of this. The weakness of the Biden presidency,
yeah,
how Saudi Arabia, just flouted America's orders once they asked them to increase the oil production.
yeah,
Similarly, Biden not picking up the phone call, Mohammed bin Salman not picking up the phone call of Biden, and
yeah,
then Netanyahu flouting their orders. I mean, it was an entire presidency that looked like America was had become very weak in asking and demanding stuff from people, and
yeah,
those people fulfilling their. And I mean, you're sponsoring them. That's the
yes,
funniest thing to me. That
yeah,
in case of MBS, yeah, we can understand. Okay, he had very little cards to play. But
yeah,
in case of Netanyahu, you are the only power in the world that is actually bankrolling that war. So you can make them do stuff, humanitarian stuff. I mean, it's not something that Palestinians are asking of them. It's something the entire international community is asking of you.
yeah,
And then the establishment thing, it all got messed up really, really bad.
yeah,
So now let's close this topic and move on to our next, because the next four are very small topics. I just want to say a few words on each. Are you up for that,
correct.
Jibran?
I think why shouldn't we cover it in another session? Say we take a break for an hour or so, if that works for you,
Okay, if
or
the
later in the
break is
evening, or
supposed to be
later
of
in
an
the
hour, so we can do it next week.
okay, we'll discuss. Let's close this one here, and then we discuss that whether we want to take the next one in the evening or next week. We will work that out.
Okay, okay.
So the parting comments on this, I mean, if you want to edit and add it to the mix, or we just finish where you finished.
Sorry, come again.
I mean, a parting comments, because we are closing this one now. You want to add
Yeah,
parting comments because
yeah.
we
Okay,
will edit this
let's
part
leave
out
some
of it,
parting
right?
points. No,
Yeah.
no, okay. I think we should be go all natural all the time, because editing takes a lot of by man hours, which I'm not willing to sacrifice.
Yeah.
So yeah, the U.S. presidency, the U.S. president election was something that went on this past week, and it turned out in a way that is going to affect us and the entire world, and probably not in a good way. So we wanted to discuss these things because I don't think that the left has the liberty inside United States to discuss these things as we discussed it,
Mm.
and maybe because some aspects are more clearer to you once you're not too close to the stuff. Once you
Yeah.
take a step back, you have a certain distance between you and the stuff happening. You can be more objective about things.
Yeah.
So I think we had something to offer in this particular aspect. So that's why we conducted this session.
Yes, and Adan, thank you very much for today's insights. And I would very much like that we follow this one up with the question I actually kind of you know paraphrased earlier, that what do we expect from Trump next? Because I'm not very sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I have certain ideas, but what do you see as what this presidency is expected to deliver or not deliver to the world? So we'll focus on that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. We'll do that.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye bye.